During our previous chapters, we had a quick overview about Liferay mobile strategies, and we talked how to develop mobile website using either responsive design or mobile detection rules. Also, we covered Liferay screen and native development, and in this video, I will cover how to build mobile application using hybrid development. As we mentioned previously, to build an application, you can either use the native technologies or you can do hybrid development by using web technologies to build native application. Let's talk more about hybrid development. Hybrid mobile applications are built in a similar manner as a website. Both use a combination of technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. However, instead of targeting a mobile browser, hybrid applications target a web view hosted inside a native container. This enables them to do things like accessing capabilities of the mobile device using a plugin like Cordova, as we talked before. A well-written hybrid application should not look or behave differently than its native equivalent. So for the end user, it's almost impossible to know if this application was built using native technology or it was mixed with web technologies. Liferay Screens has a dedicated screenlet for hybrid development. It's called Web Screenlet. We will discuss in this video how you can use the Web Screenlet inside your native application. Also, we have a plugin for the Web Screenlet. It's called Apache Cordova plugin. This plugin enables the web page consumed in the native application using the Web Screenlet to connect to mobile features like phone call, GPS, cameras, and much more. We will show that in the demo. So now, we will see how you can use the Web Screenlet with your native application. First, you will need to add Liferay Screens dependencies inside your native application. We did that in the previous videos, but we will repeat it here as a reminder. In our example, we will use screens with a native Android application, but the same steps, you can use it for iOS native application as well. So to connect your application with Liferay Instant using screen, you will need to do two steps. The first one is on this slide, which is you will need to include Liferay Screens dependency element inside your build.gradle file. So once you create your application, you click on the build Gradle file and you add the dependency inside the screen. Next, and the last step, you will need to create a file called server_context.xml, and inside that file you will need to add the server URL, the company, and the group ID. This file should be created inside the values folder. We will see during our demo how you can get this information. In the next couple of slides, we will see how I can add Web Screenlet inside my native Android application and use Cordova plugin. First, in Android Studio, you can open the visual editor of your activity and insert the Web Screenlet. After you set the Web Screenlet attributes, you can actually start using it. You can always refer to the documentation of the Web Screenlet to know all the required and supported attributes. Then after that, when you move to your activity or fragment class, you can actually call the Web Screenlet configuration and add the web URL that you need to include inside your native application. Also, as you can see here, you can call local or remote CSS and JavaScript file to change the look and feel of the web page as required. That will make you easily make the web screenlet consuming your native application look and behave the same as the rest of your native application. Other configuration that is worth to mention is the authentication. If you want to pass the username and password from your native application to the web page, you will need to enable the web type .liferay under authenticated. And as you can see in my example, I enabled the authentication to pass the application credential to the blog page on Liferay. Also, you can inject remote or local CSS and JavaScript file to change the look and feel of the web page in your native application as required. That will make the web page look and behave the same as the rest of your native application. We will also show that in the demo. If you need to make your web page call native mobile feature, you will need to enable the Cordova plugin. For example, if you want a button on the consumed web page to make a phone call, you can simply enable Cordova plugin in the Web Screenlet and call the APIs. To do that, you will need 3 simple steps. First, install Cordova plugin, and I'll show you how you can do that during the demo. Second, you will need a Cordova plugin lifecycle observer. The reason for that is actually very deep technical that we can cover later in another presentation. Third, you can enable Cordova plugin calls in your Web Screenlet. We will see that all in details in the demo. This is a sample code for how to enable Cordova plugin into your Web Screenlet. In the next slide, you will see the JavaScript code that is injected here. As you can see in the JavaScript, I mapped the JavaScript call coming from the web page to a function called office. In this function, I used Cordova APIs to make a real phone call. So no matter what Android device will run this application, this button will be able to make a real phone call. In the next chapter, I will talk about the push notification and how you can manage all your notification for all the channels from one place. Let's jump to the demo and see how you can use the Web Screenlet and Cordova plugin. In this video, I will show a demo on Liferay hybrid development and how to use the Web Screenlet with your native application. I will start using Liferay DXP demo application that I created previously in the Liferay screen video. So if you want to see how I created Liferay DXP demo application from scratch, you can see the Liferay screens video for that. So my task in this native application, I need to include a web page from my side inside my native application. So I'm going back to my Liferay instance here, and in this demo I will include this blog page inside my native application, and I will inject some CSS and JS files to make this page look as the rest of the site. So going back to my developer studio, the first thing I would like to do here is to add the Web Screenlet code. Right? So you can see here, all what I need to do is call the Web Screenlet, and then the next step, I need to make my application listen to the triggers coming from this Web Screenlet and render the correct URL on this screen. So I'm gonna open my Java class, and first thing I need to do is to implement the web listener. Right? And the next step I need to do is to actually make an instance from this web screen listener outside of my create class, and we will see why I did that exactly. Right? The next step, I need to pass my WebScreenlet from my activity to the Java class so that the activity can listen to triggers fired from the WebScreenlet. I can do that with two single steps. The first one is to get the WebScreenlet from my activity, and then the next one is actually to load a method that I will pass the code right now. In this method, I'm going actually to configure the WebScreenlet to what page I need from Liferay. So let me first fix the import classes. So you can see here in my configuration, I'm actually asking Liferay to connect to the blog page coming from Liferay instant and actually pass the username and password from the native application to Liferay instant, and then load this page. Note that until this moment, I didn't inject any CSS or JavaScript class. So let's see how that's going to look like on my page. You can see now I completely consumed the blog page inside my mobile application, even the menus, everything. And of course, I don't need that in my native application. So the next step, I will inject some CSS and JavaScript code to make sure this page will look as the same as the native application. So to do that, I'm going to create a new folder inside my REST, and I will name it raw. And inside my raw folders, I'm going to create two files. One is CSS file and one is JavaScript file. Just for our time, I already have this file created, so I'm just going to copy this file inside my Android Studio. So let's take a quick look on those files. So inside my GS files, it's actually an empty file. I didn't really do anything in the JavaScript file. But inside the CSS file, I'm actually adding some CSS classes to change the look of this page and make it looks like the native application. The next step I need to do, I need to inject those classes here. Right? Let's see now how that will look like. So I'm going to enter my user name and password. And you can see now it actually looks much better, and it's actually nobody can feel this is coming from the web. Everyone would think this is a native feature coming from the mobile application. One thing I want to show here before I end this demo is how all the authentication and authorization is handled by Liferay Instant. So you can handle everything from one place. So you can see, for example, I logged now as Bruno, and Bruno is an admin user, so he is allowed to add a blog entry here. But if I went back to the login screen and I log in with another user that is not allowed to add a new blog, he's not going to be able to view that button. So you can see Neil cannot see that button here. Let's say, for example, at a certain point you want to allow Nail to add a blog. You can control everything from Liferay instance. So let's do that in 2 seconds. So Nail is an employee in my Liferay instance. So what I will do, I'm gonna go to my role management tab, and inside my role management tab I will enable any employee to be able to add a new blog. So inside the employee role, I'll define a new permission, and inside my permissions I will go to the blogs, and in the blogs I will just enable any employee to be able to add a new blog here. Click Save, and that's all what I need. Let's test this. I didn't redeploy the application or anything. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna sign again as Nail. Now you can see Nail will be able to add a new blog on a website. So it's a very useful way of building your mobile application very dynamic, so that you can manage it from one place, which is your Liferay instance, and you don't need to redeploy your code on your application over and over whenever you do any simple change. In the next video, I will show a demo about Web Screenlet with Cordova plugin. In this video, I will demo how to use Cordova plugin with the Web Screenlet. In the previous video, we demo how to do hybrid development using the Web Screenlet, and in this one, we'll enable Cordova plugin call so that you can make a button on a web page to do a real call on a native mobile application. So as a summary to what I will do, in my Liferay instance, I have created a new page, and I named this page to be Contact Us. And inside this page, I added a simple button. Let's see the code of that button. So that button is a very simple button that do a function call for a JavaScript with no implementation for this function. We will consume this page inside our native application, and then we will map this JavaScript function call to some APIs inside our native application. Alright, so to enable Cordova plugin inside your Android application, you can do that either using Liferay tool to automatically add all the libraries and APIs inside your Android project, or you can do it manually. In this demo, I'm gonna use the first method because it's much easier, and Liferay helps you to use this method to save a lot of time. So as the documentation mentioned, to use this method, you're gonna need to install Git, Node.js, and npm on your machine. I already have those tools installed, so let's see how I can create an empty Android project with Cordova plugin enabled. So in my folders, I'm going to create an empty folder, and I can name it anything. And once I have that folder created, I can open that folder in my command line. And I can actually create a file inside that folder. And once I have that file created, I need to open that file and then copy this 2 lines of. So basically inside this file, I'm asking Liferay to import only Cordova libraries that is required in my native application for only calling numbers. So you don't need to import the whole plugin inside your native application and make it huge if you're only gonna use one feature. So Liferay enables you to only consume the code for the feature that you will use. Since I will use only call number in my native application, that's only the code that I will import inside my Android application. Next, I need to rename my file. So this is very important. My file name needs to be .plugins.screens. Last step, I need to create my Android project. To do this, I'm using Liferay tool screens.cli, and this tool will create an empty project for me that has Cordova plugin enabled. I'm going to name my project to be my first Cordova project. This tool is very useful because it imports all the library that you need. You don't need to do extra step. You just need to watch what's going on. Now everything is done. The project is created. So when you go back to your folder again, you can see an empty Android project created with all the Cordova libraries that you need. In my demo here, I actually previously created a project, and I created a couple of activities inside that project just to save our time. So I have this already running inside my Android Studio. If you want to see how you can create empty activities and enable Liferay screens and add Liferay screens inside your empty activities, you can watch the video of Liferay screens that I created previously. So now I have this enabled. So the next step I need to do is I need to add the Web Screenlet on my activity, and then I need to configure this Web Screenlet to consume the colas page from Liferay instant. So first, I will add the code for the Web Screenlet on my activity, and then in my class, I will start to catch this Web Screenlet and add the configuration I need. So here you can see that I'm actually creating a new instance from the Cordova Life Circle Observer because I need to pass this to the Cordova plugin whenever I enabled. The reason for that is discussed in our documentation, and we can share it with you. Here in this code, on the creation of the activity, I'm actually looking for the screenlet by the ID, and once I find this screenlet, I'm actually calling the method that will configure this screenlet. This is the method, and this is the code that I need to run so that I can actually have this Web Screenlet configured. So you can see now in my Web Screenlet, I'm actually gonna gonna consume a page from my Liferay instance, and in my case here, my page is called /call_us, and I will enable the Cordova plugin, and I will pass the observer lifecycle to it. I didn't inject any CSS or JS class, so let's see how it's gonna look like. So I'm gonna log in as an admin user. And here you can see I completely consumed this page inside my native app. You can see this button is not doing any function here. Next, I will map the JavaScript function call from my web page to call Cordova plugin APIs inside my native app. So to do this, I need to create two files, the JavaScript file and the CSS. The JavaScript file will be used to do the map for the function from the web page to the native app. The CSS file, it will be just for styling. So inside my RESTful file, I'm gonna go to values. Inside my REST file, I'll create a row folder, and inside the row folder, I will create the CSS and JS file. So I'm going to name it call underscore css.css, and another file I'll create here, cool underscore gs.gs. And in my CSS file, I will add the CSS to restyle this button. And in my JavaScript, I will add this code. So you can see here, inside the JavaScript, I'm actually doing two functions. The first function is actually getting the wrapper, which is the highest div inside Liferay that wrap all the HTML code inside it. And I'm replacing this with the div that is covering the button. So I'm doing this just because I want to show only the button. I don't want to show the rest of the page inside my native application. The next one is the one is calling the Cordova plugin API. So here I'm catching the call office JavaScript function coming from my web page, and I'm passing this to this call office function that I created here inside my native app. And inside my native app, I'm calling Cordova APIs, and you can see how simple it is. And I just pass the number here. So anyone will press that button will actually make the phone call that number. So inside my web configuration, I need to include those CSS and JavaScript class. Right? Now I'm ready to test this. So we'll log in back as an admin user. And here you can see I completely style it to only show the call button, and I completely style the button so it looks the same as the native application. I'm going to try to do a call now. And you can see now the application start to request to do a real call on the phone. And you can see now the call is actually got passed, so I can do this real call now. So in this demo, we saw how it's easy. I can use the Cordova plugin to map functions from my web page to real feature inside my native application. In my next video, I will show how you can enable push notification to push notification from your Liferay instance inside your native application and manage all your channels from one place.